Good people, welcome back. So today at one want to talk about something small. That's the print functions. Print functions. Let's proceed from where we left. Let's talk about print functions. So print functions. So basically common operation for a function is to print text, right? Basically it should print text. The output should be a text. And to be honest, like text can clutter the main program. You can fail to actually see what is happening in the program because of light text. Yeah. So this happens if the text needs to be output many times. So a function that only prints typically does not return a value. So what do we say a void function is? Let's define a void function. Void function is a function with no return statement. Yeah, that's what a void function is. So if we have a function that has no return statement, that's a void function. And then these functions they return the value none, which means there is no output, right? So they mostly these functions returns the value none. Let's do an example of printing a function. Printing a function with a printing with a void function. Let's see what happens when we do a print with a void function, right? An example. So basically a void function is a function with no return statement. So okay, let's do an example. A syntax of let's do a syntax of a void return statement. Syntax would be basically for function with a def keyword function name. Then we'll have parameters go here. I hope we are now familiar with parameters and arguments. Parameter or parameters, full color, indentation. Then we say print something. Yeah. So basically, this does not have a return statement, right? I hope that makes sense. Let's do an example, then we see what is the output. So we'll do an example using function age py.pt. So let's do a print summary, right? We're going to do a print underscore summary. Remember here we're trying to test, we're trying to do we're trying to test a void function. Basically, we're trying to have no return statement. Hope that makes sense. Here we have a return statement. Sorry, these are the return statement. So these are not void functions. Now let's do a test with a void function. Hope that makes sense. This I would want the items and the price, right? Full column here. So we want to say print. What do we want printed? This. And we are going to say order full column. Then we basically what we want to have there void. Basically ID stands for order ID. Do a print again, same thing. We're going to say items out of the number of items, comma, comma. Items. And the last one being print, same thing. Then we say this is since we want to have the price to 2-point notation, we want to have the F here, sorry, F here, and we say total, full column. Then we have there's a price, full column, no, column here, but 2, yeah. So basically this function has print statements, doesn't have a return statement. Excuse. So when you call the function, our function is called print summary, right? So we do print summary. Then we pass the arguments. Order ID we can have 1. You can have the items being 10. You can have the price being 50 point. Let's say 10. These are parameters. These are arguments. Hope that makes sense. So we can add this function. We can say Python function 8. Yeah. So we have our output as what we just have here. 1, 10. That's what we have right here. So we can have the same for, let's say you want another output for order number 2. Items are 6. Price is 24.50. So we'll have 2 outputs right now. First output being the one for 50, then order 2 the same. So that's this is a void function. A void function do not have a return statement, and we've seen right here. How that's clear. Or now we can have how we can have a void function. So basically here we were trying to understand the print function, how it works and how we can use it. Hope you've been able to see that. The print summary completes execution and returns back to the caller. So basically once this finishes, gets back to, then runs again using the second input. I hope that's clear. Should print operations be performed in the main program? They should not be performed in the main program, right? A void function can have any number of parameters. That's true. A print function must return the value that was output. Not really. It can must not return the value that was output. So basically, I hope from that example we've had a clear understanding of that. A function that produces output can also return a value, but this material separates these operations for clarity. A function that both outputs and returns a value is not void. Let's have that in mind. A function that both outputs and returns I hope we've been able. I've used examples to show you this. So if a function, right? So a function that outputs a value and returns a value is not void. How that makes sense? A function that has both outputs a value and returns a value is not void. Basically, this is void. Why? We don't have a return value right here. This function is not void because we have a return value. So this is void because we don't have. This is not void because this is not void because we have a return value, right? So another keyword we should keep in mind is a function. Let me use say that is an output. An output and also return a value. Yeah? How this makes sense? Can also return a value. Yeah, I hope that makes sense and we have understood how we can do that. In our example, we have done an example whereby we are doing print function multiple times. We've been able to have a print multiple times. I hope that's clear on how the print function works. We can do another example whereby we are using a city, right? So basically, we've had for this one we had an example using so as usual we normally have expansion here of what we've done. So for this one we are doing let's do this one order summary. This is our void function. If we remember, a void function doesn't have a return statement, right? We don't have a return statement, just pass print. So this does not return anything. Void function, I can just void function. Void function does not return anything. Yeah, we don't have a return statement here. This makes it void. Let's do function 9. 9.py. So this one here we want to we're doing another example of a void function with these segments. Yeah, so for this one we'd want to see quality. Yeah, so we'll do function with print underscore location. Yeah, so we type in location and the title. Those are our parameters. Yeah, so what do we do with this? We want to print we have to use the we want to format a string here, so we'll say our first is the braces, say title is located in location Does that make sense? Basically, that's our print statement. Now let's pass in arguments. So our arguments will be, we call it the function is print underscore location. So we just call it the function right here. Yeah. Then we pass in the arguments right now. The argument will be Boston. Yeah, Boston and MIT. So we do print 9. Yeah. Basically, a return statement. Avoid there's no return statement, so this is a void function. A void function, no return statement. I hope that makes sense of the return statement, the void functions, and the print. Basically, we're trying to cover the print functions. I hope we've been able to see that in our examples. And it was basically a go through for the print functions, and we've been able to cover void functions as well. You can do more examples on that, and let's meet in the next one as we get through this. In case you have any question, let me know. We'll get to discuss more on this if you have a question. Let's meet in the next one.